Welcome to Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I am your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Mon Palmer of Bare Cabo. Mon is a designer in Western Australia and she's got more businesses than just Bare Cabo. She does landscape design, also interior design, also does some designing of the complete house, including the internal, external. And she's also in the planning stages of starting up a luxury accommodation place in Western Australia as well. So got plenty going on, but it's good to chat to her and understand that everything she's doing is based around her passions. So she's not doing just normal landscape design, but she's also incorporating the interiors because that's what she likes to do. And it was also great to hear that she started in construction as well, which I think is a great skill for any designer to do, and vice versa. For any landscaper, doing some work in design is great as well. So just so that you can see the way that people do things and the different side of the coin. And earlier on in the episode, she mentioned how she's a decade into business and still learning, which I think is a great mindset to have. And it's the way it is basically. So there's plenty of good tips in here. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Mon Palmer. Mon, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. So the first question I've got for you is how you started in the industry.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for having me. It's great what you're doing. And I'm excited to be involved today. So yeah, can't wait to get talking. So how I started in the landscape industry was, quite a long time ago now, maybe 15 years ago. I was traveling and living in London on a working visa. And I was quite lost before I knew what I wanted to do, before I found my purpose. And so, I was working for a real estate agent over there, and I was just in their head office, like getting all of the calls that would come in for people looking to buy or rent in London. And the main thing I noticed was that everyone was asking for outdoor space. Whether they were renting, buying, no matter the inquiry, they all wanted some outdoor space. And as we know, London has got quite a wet, different environment to what Australia has. And I was just like thinking, wow, if this is such a big thing here, then maybe it is, everywhere, because I guess garden design is such an age-old profession over in Europe and in London. But in Australia, it just felt like it wasn't actually a thing that you would pay for someone to design a space or a garden. Your dad would do it at the back and you'd have your heels hoist and you'd do some paving. And it just got me thinking. And as I was traveling around and backpacking, I really fell in love with people's spaces and how they lived. And it was so different to back home. And I became fascinated with it. And there were all different types of spaces and I guess towns of people living on top of each other, small spaces, large spaces, different countries, different cultures. And I became, fascinated in it. And the more I was working at this real estate agent, the more I was asking questions about why aren't we doing more back at home in Australia? And we were on like a 1/4 acre block growing up. And it just seemed like we had such big blocks and we weren't using their full potential, but we were paying for this whole land and everything in our mortgages. So I had an idea that maybe I could start to learn about plants and design when I got home, and that's where my journey began. And when I got home, I was too scared to take the plunge. So I went and worked for a travel consultant agency, flight centre for many years. And as I love to travel, I hated being on the other side of the desk, booking other people's holidays. I wanted to be the one going. So I thought, you know what, maybe this isn't my purpose, what I'm meant to be doing. And maybe I should take that leap and quit full-time job with a mortgage and go to full-time study. And that's when I enrolled in TAFE at one of the, it was kind of like an agricultural TAFE, but not, it's in Murdoch and it's quite, it's pretty rustic and rural. And there I learned horticulture. And when I first looked into courses, they didn't have a landscape design course at our TAFE in WA available. There wasn't a nationally recognised qualification, like, for instance, RIDE in New South Wales. So I had to default to landscape in horticulture. So I spent a year on the tools. I had a alley tray back ute, I had wheelbarrow, shovels, all the tools. And for a year, I worked from the ground up, constructing limestone walls, building decking, installing retic, and getting a really good foundation for construction in the industry, as well as horticulture knowledge, plant knowledge, and everything that kind of went together that wasn't so much design focused or based, but more so how it all went together. And that really interested my maths and science brain. So growing up as a kid, I wasn't creative at all. And I was very maths and science based. And I think that construction side of it and knowing the how and the why really interested me. I was one of 2 girls in the class for a year, and that was really tough, but I stuck at it. And then the next year after that, they had opened up a landscape design course at TAFE, and I was one of the inaugural students to do that. So so that's how my journey started, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, that's such a good way to do it, even though it wasn't deliberate. But there's so many people who do a design course have got no idea about construction. So having that forced on you would have been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it really was. It's sometimes we wondered about some of the techniques. We weren't too sure, how trained the actual teachers were as well. So it was kind of like we're all kind of pitching in and helping together and brainstorming and workshopping things as we were going along. So yeah, it was quite interesting. But yeah, I really did learn a lot from it, and more so resilience more than anything was like sticking at it, even though it was really tough. And at the time I got a job working in Bunnings as well in the plant section. So that really helped with my knowledge of plants, because I had never really grown up with that kind of influence. I'd never really planted anything before I started studying. So yeah, to have that hands-on experience and people asking about certain plants and how to find them was really good as well.
Yeah, I did the same. I worked at a nursery before I started landscaping, and that was a big bonus, because there's in terms of landscapers who know about plants, I know more than most, not nowhere near as much as a designer, but yeah, it makes a huge difference knowing what you're talking about.
I think just the general public asking questions about things, and what's this on my leaf that's killing my citrus, and where are the petunias? I remember an older lady asking me that, and I didn't even know what a petunia was. I was so embarrassed, So you have to learn pretty quickly when there's questions and inquiries are fired at you. So yeah, best way to learn is, I believe, with experience and on the job. And yeah, that certainly did help.
Yeah, that's a best place to do it as well. In it, like where you're surrounded by plants, it's the same when you're trying to learn a language. It's best to go to a country that speaks the language, rather than just trying to do it where they speak
exactly.
English, being forced into it more.
Yeah.
So how was it going from the extremes of going from London back to Perth? The weather's a bit different there, so I imagine the gardens you were looking at weren't similar.
Yeah, I was really happy to get home, because I do love the sunshine. I don't do very well in the cold, so it was a love-hate relationship. And but I did I think classic design is like my first love, because of that exposure I had. And it was the first time I really took an interest in gardens and outdoor spaces. So it is my first love, and my style has definitely evolved over that time to be a little bit more robust in terms of wanderlust. It's not so much the classical tones as much, but yeah, it definitely was my first love. Coming back to Perth was a bit of a shock, because the soil, the dry land, the non-water water restrictions, it did really limit some of the planting palettes that can use. But over time, I've developed a really strong Mediterranean planting palette that I love to use, that still has the beautiful different textures and color tones, and it looks lush, but they're hardy. And I think just knowing what to use and where can really make a difference in the garden. It doesn't have to look water-wise, but as long as it is fundamentally water-wise, then it can still be really tough and robust in a garden and look better as time goes on.
Yeah, there's a lot of native plants as well that don't necessarily look as like the classical native. So they're nice and soft and still drought tolerant.
Exactly. And it's just like blending them together and knowing what works well. I definitely like to pick and choose from different, whether it's exotic species or native. And it's more of, I guess the leaf size and colour and how you put them together with others that make them feel seamless. Yeah.
So once you'd done the study and then went Bunnings, when did you start doing design after that? Did you work for someone else, or?
So I started my first business while I was studying, because I had a mortgage that I was trying to pay, and people just all of a sudden started asking me if I could help them with their spaces, because they knew I was studying it. So yeah, probably the reason why I learn the hard way is because I just do things. like as I go, and having not been in business before, I probably didn't put all the steps in place beforehand. And I'm only just after like over a decade now understanding what you actually need to put in place to have a really successful, smoothly running business. And that is forever a journey, and it's evolving all the time. But it was probably the naivety of it. But I just went headfirst into it, and it was really busy straight away. And I worked for myself while studying, and then I did go into a partnership. We, at the end of the study, so after a couple of years, did a garden. It's called Garden Week in Perth, and we did a display together and won gold. And
Cool.
It's definitely nothing like the Melbourne Flower Show, but we had a really good turnout. We did this like Moroccan inspired courtyard, and it was really great. And so from there we found, we worked really well together, and it just kind of exploded. But what didn't work was that we had the same skill set. And so I find that if you're going to go into partnership with someone, whether I would, ever do that again, I'm not sure, but it's great to have complementary skill sets, not the same, because, there's then gaps and holes in the business, and what you kind of put out and produce, and overlap is probably a bit hard. Unfortunately, that partnership didn't work. And because that was my baby and it was doing really well, like it was a big decision for me to step away from that. And it was more based on values, why I stepped away from that. I think we went on the same page, and I believe that's really important. I just didn't have the energy or the heart to start up something else again, because that was my baby. I definitely wanted to stay in the industry, but I thought what I would do this time is gain some experience working in a landscape architect firm, because I just really started up my business while I was studying, and you don't learn too much about business, in your horticultural landscape design courses. You do touch on it a bit, but it's nothing like the real world. So I approached my favourite landscape architect firm in Perth and set up a meeting to chat with them about any possibility of working with them. They set up a role for me within the business. And so I was a senior designer, and I got to run my own projects, and it was great working there within a team. It was so different for me, to go into an office and work as a team. And I realized that I did most things backwards. I'm very unconventional in how my creative process works and what I do. And I've learned to really embrace that. But when you go from working on your own to into a team of qualified landscape architects, that imposter syndrome and that feeling of inadequacy and self-doubt is really loud. Yeah. It was really, it was eye-opening for me. But they were so trusting of me, especially the owner, and he had a lot of faith in me. And so I ended up staying there for like 3.5 years, I think. Working on some really beautiful high-end residential projects. My main love is residential. I'm not too, keen on commercial or urban design. It's more of the family home. And I really loved it. And coming up to the end of that time, my partner, he is a firefighter, but he loves doing Ironman, and he qualified for the World Championships in Montreal. And he had long service coming up, which was 3 months off. And his dream was to go and train at high altitude in Boulder, Colorado. So we made a plan to see if I could go and work, go live over in the States with him and work part-time remote with this landscape architect firm. So I pitched it to them, and they were open to it. And at that stage, I think it was 2014. So pre-COVID, pre-online working. But what I really wanted to do was create a business that was location independent, even though I was a landscape designer, and have more of like a global reach. And so I thought this could be a really great testing ground for this, like working remote, online. And so they're open to it. So we moved to Boulder, Colorado. It was probably one of the best times of our lives, pre-kids, and just, loving it there. So different to Perth. It's on the foothills of the Rockies, and we didn't have a car. We just rode around on our bikes, and there was a Whole Foods, so all organic food just like up the road. And it was beautiful and very lush and green and hilly and lakes, and so different to our landscape. It was very inspired. so we were there for 3 months, and that time coming up at the end of it, Phil was like, okay, this is your time now to go out on your own again. Like, you really need to, like, I can see that it's in you. I see you want that. And he gave me the confidence and the push to then leave that firm and go out on my own again. And while I was working part-time remote, I made sure that I got very, very, very clear on my ideal client, how I wanted the business to look, what I wanted my style to be, and how I wanted to show up in the world again now that I was going to go out on my own. Because prior to that, all of my inspiration was coming from the landscape industry, and it was kind of replicating what was already out there. It wasn't my true self. So I thought, let's break down the boundaries. Let's try and look at it from a different perspective, and I guess do something different that is so true to me, but not be afraid of it. And so, I looked at architecture and fashion and interiors and travel for my inspiration. And I looked at different industries and how they were doing things in terms of how they would run their business. And so when I returned, I relaunched, and that's when I started to, strangely, without even advertising or saying that I did this, I was getting inquiries from over East for me to design the outdoor spaces. And ever since then, that's been like my main area of work. So from Sydney up to Brisbane, in that kind of area there. Yeah, which is great because the climate and the planting allows for my style to like really take hold. So that's where most of my work is done now, and it's still done remote, and it set me up quite well for COVID and dealing with that. I just didn't get to visit site through that time because WA was very strict.
Yeah. So are you looking back at all the different tools you can use now for remote things, wishing, I mean, I wish that had that when I was in Colorado?
Oh, yeah. It was, actually, I probably haven't used too much different. It was still Zoom. Okay. And that was basically it. Yeah. And I just had my laptop and that was basically all I needed and still need now.
Yeah. It's so easy now. And I suppose, if you knew about it back then, and it's similar, that would have been all right. So did you learn much about business from the company that you worked for?
I learned how that I didn't want to be like corporate as such, if that makes sense. Like, I learned how I did things is how I wanted to keep doing things. And there probably wasn't too much different from what I was already doing. And I think I really learned how I didn't want to do things, and continued on my way.
And how did Phil go in the Ironman? Because I'm fascinated.
Yeah, he did really well. I can't remember what he got, but I think it's pretty savage. I remember the course. It was like in this, it was like in a ski village. So it was like cobblestones, and it was summer at the time though. So it looked like this magical land. It didn't even look real. And, there were cobblestone roads and archways and pathways and lots of stacks.
Cool. Yeah, my boss, when I first started, he did the Hawaiian Ironman, so he was all into that.
Amazing. That is just what an amazing event that is.
Yeah.
You could, when we were spectating, we could feel the heat from the road, just right like lava, basically. Like, how are these people doing it? Crazy.
So has it basically just gone nuts since you got back and started working for yourself again?
It's been it just has been nonstop basically, and and then we started a family as well, so that was an interesting journey of like just realizing that I had to slow down. I don't really know how to slow down. I've always got a few ideas going on at the one time, and I love being creative in that way, in that more business minded way. And so, that was really interesting. And it's funny how, if you don't stop, your body will tell you to stop. So, I have been over the last few years. So our little boy is 4.5 now. When he was 6 months old, I became really, really unwell with rashes all over me and my body just kind of freaking out. And it's been a long road to figure out what that actually was and how I can, live with that and manage it, and it's only just starting to become better now. So about 4 years later, we've figured out what it is, and it's a whole multitude of autoimmune diseases and chronic illness. And a lot of that can come from trauma and genetics and your body and your environment. So there's a whole range of things that has probably made this storm happen. And yeah, I guess I just don't know how to stop. So I'm very good at setting better boundaries now. And that's really led my new progression of business and how I put in processes and structure.
Yeah, there was an Instagram post you did recently where you said you always feel the need to rush to the end, but now you're taking time to marinate, which I think is a great choice of words, and also great sentiment.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of reading about this and around this, and there's a book I'm reading at the moment called Do Less by Kate Northrup, and it's, as I'm reading it, it's really interesting because she's saying there's this like everything's a cycle, it's cyclic, it's not linear. And I forgot what she calls it, but about in your career you're always kind of upcycling, so you go through the same cycles, but each time you cycle through, you've learned a little bit more and you know a bit more, so you'll always come back to the same things, but each time it has more layers on it and you know how to handle it better, or you do things more wiser, or it's a really interesting concept, and it's about how also like she looks at the seasons, how seasons don't rush, like they always happen in their good time. And I'm really embracing that at the moment, and I'm sitting with that, and I'm letting that become more of my, I guess, the narrative that's in my mind, because we're so programmed to, you know, push through, keep going, work, and especially being in this industry, you know, there's a lot of masculine energy, which I love. I'm probably more masculine than feminine, and so I love that kind of drive and go and projects and this and that and getting to the finish. But it really is more about the journey there, and taking the time to really enjoy all parts of it and honor all of it. And yeah, I think, you know, I've hit my 40s now, so for me it's probably just becoming a little bit wiser as well, and not having the same stamina as I did when I was in my 20s, when I started all of this. And I think I forgot. I kept going, oh yeah, but I used to be able to do that. But yeah, let it go.
You still can do it, but it's not healthy.
Yeah, and it's in a different way. It's a smarter way, and it's a more joyful way, and it's a more robust way with, you know, support and people and team. And I had for a long time, and I've had work on this with like a coach, and you know, I'd always had to fend for myself and look after myself from a young age. So I always had this, I guess, this mindset of having to provide and create and make sure I'm safe. And now I can actually, I've changed that to know that I am safe and I'm fine, and there's not always that rush now to make sure everyone's okay or that I'm okay.
I've only just learned as well that we should be, like, the doing jobs slower isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, I was just caring about getting jobs done as fast as I could, so that for the client to be happy, and then we can move on to the next job and start their job as soon as possible. And we were working faster than what we are at the moment, but I was making less money. So you need to work out what's the point in doing that. Are you in business to finish jobs or to make money?
Yeah, exactly. And so what was it that made you realize that it was that was not actually working?
Running out of money. I had basically an anxiety attack, because I realised I've got no money. I've got all this stuff I've got to pay, and I don't know where it's going to come from. And then I worked some things out, and it was coming in. But I realised that better off doing it slower, because it's one of those things that two people don't work twice as fast as one, which I'll never understand how that works, but it works. So you've just got to do things slower, and other people are better at businesses than me. But so you sort of need to work out how you run a business. So don't necessarily worry about what other people are doing, because what works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So that goes back to, like you said before, when you started the business initially, like, you didn't know much about business because you don't know what you don't know. So you can't learn. There's no point
I
going,
know.
like, you could go to do a business course, but it's nothing like doing it yourself and experiencing it.
Oh, exactly. Actually, I had this conversation with my partner the other day. I was like, I think I need to do an MBA. And then I also said it to my coach as well. And they're like, what are you talking about? Because what you would have learned in real life and experience is probably very close to what you'll be getting from that from the MBA. And maybe you just need to do a couple of units here and there of something, but doing that whole process. And yeah, because you question yourself, you second guess, you don't know. And I'm always like, I'm a landscape designer, but then I've also gone into like many different avenues of design and business. So, you know, whenever I do take on a new adventure or journey or whatever you call it, I do go through that self-doubt again. Like, well, actually, what am I doing? Am I qualified to do this? Should I be doing this? Am I meant to be doing this? And then so you feel like you have to justify what you do by getting some sort of letters next to your name or a certificate, when really it's, I think passion drives a lot of it. And then just getting a really good team and consultants around you and the people who have the skill set that you need, and then move forward in that way.
Yeah, and so touching on those things the other things that you're doing other than design, which when you came back from Colorado, you said you wanted to run things your way, like the creativity way with those other influences. So it sounds like that's what's made you start those other businesses that you're doing as well.
Yeah. So last year, while in probably the hitting rock bottom with my health and really seeing no way out, no answers, I've seen every ologist kind of doctor, and we were all at a loss, and there were like these multiple diagnoses of things. I thought maybe this isn't for me, because in this time my creativity left the building, and I found it so, I felt like I wasn't honoring my clients if I was to keep on taking work. Like I could design, I could do it, but it wasn't at that same state of inspiration.
Yeah.
And I really struggled with that. And what I had realized was I hadn't gone back and done that deep hard work for many years since we came back from Colorado in 2014. So at this time it was 2021. So that's many years of just doing the same thing without checking in on, okay, am I still, is this still what I'm passionate about? Are these my ideal clients? Am I values? Am I leading from values? Is my mission being accomplished? Like all those deeper questions of why I hadn't revisited, because I was just in the daily, every day of doing it. It was busy. I was chasing my tail, opportunities coming. I didn't know how to say no. I didn't have any boundaries. I didn't have a team around me. And so I was just always in the doing, never reflecting. And I think when I hit rock bottom, the only thing I could do was reflect, because I couldn't keep going forward. And I was like, okay, so I'm either going to give up on everything, just quit it, pack it all in, go and hide under a hole, or I face some truths and do some hard work and figure out what it is that life looks like now, because it has changed. And let's be true to that. So I did some work with one of my really good friends. They have a company that they find your purpose and your why. So they go through all of these, I guess, exercises and workshops to get you to really bring that out. Some of it is quite deep work and it's quite confronting, and others is really, exciting, and it fuels you with that passion again. That's when I decided that I wanted to take it slower even more and take on less jobs, but have more depth to them and focus on creating the absolute dream spaces that I would love to create. And so that's where Bare Cabo was born last year. And so it's focusing on sustainable materials, sustainable build, a longer, slower process, and really doing all of the bits. So it's not that rush. It's not quickly get it out. There is always that rush, and there is always a deadline and a time frame, but it's finding the balance between the two and giving it that time to marinate the design and the process. And I was just always of the same mind as you, of they just want it fast, they want it now, they need it done. Because as soon as I got into the landscape industry, like the world was going to blow up before Christmas, you know, and it was always this rush to there. But, you know, it was always that pressure and that time. And so it was just so highly ingrained into me. But what I realized, and what like my coach has told me that, which has really helped, is that people just want an outcome. And that outcome doesn't always look like they need it right here, there and now, but they want the outcome that they've come to you for. And that's helped me with my procrastination and perfectionism. So kind of like, well, they want an outcome, so give it to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be fast, but at least, you know, keep progressing to give them that, or get someone else to help you to give them that. And yeah, so that is now, you know, where we are taking the design studio and our projects, which has been so exciting, because the people and clients that come in now are just, you know, they want those spaces of like raw luxury and that wanderlust kind of feel, and yeah, beautiful natural raw materials. And so I think it definitely, whatever you put out there, you do receive, and getting clear on that is really important for if you're wanting to be, you know, living out your passion and doing your dream job. You have to let the universe know what that is so that you can receive it. And then we also, so at that time of like, well, you know, YOLO, what else would we want out of life? So that was how I wanted the design studio to look. And then we had this huge, big pie in the sky dream of designing our own luxury, sustainable accommodation in a remote place, because we love to be remote and just absolutely like in raw nature. And so we started to, I guess, put that dream into action, just with tiny steps, like, you know, just one foot in front of the other. And now it actually, I think, is becoming a thing. So we've just engaged a town planner to take us through some of the next steps with the government, local government authority in the state. And so, yeah, we're thinking this could actually be a possibility. So something that was a dream, maybe August last year, I guess, could be an actual real life, yeah, thing.
So is that where, so are people going to be staying at a place that you've designed and built, like in remote WA?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw it on the website of it in the About Us section. It just sounds phenomenal. Like, it sounds like a dream place to go.
It's something, it's a place that's very like dear to our heart. We have a connection there, and funnily enough, a family connection there, which we will explain, you know, when we can share all of this information. We were originally going to do like a docuseries on it and share the whole process, but because it took a different path, like we thought we were going to buy some land and just build something on there and maybe rent it out. Now it's becoming a full 100% tourism holiday accommodation. So it's very different from what we thought at the start, but we let the journey take its own path, and this is where we're at, and it's even better than what we had imagined. But it will be, yeah, so I guess my mission and purpose and ethos of Bare Cabo in like some accommodation that people can stay in, I guess. And it's really connecting to those values and bringing that through this project. So it's really showcasing, I guess, what Bare Cabo stands for and lives for in a physical place. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and we're doing a lot of partnerships with some great local businesses, and we will be, I can't wait to share more, but it really will be a dream.
Yeah, I saw a few months ago you did a promo for it.
Yeah,
that was pretty impressive. That you made that yourself.
That was just my editing,
and
you know, and like it was that was a lot of work just to do that.
Yeah, it looked
I'm
awesome,
like, you need a professional to do that. But yeah, we really want, because it's such I guess it would be a different kind of build, and yeah, it'll be cool. So hopefully we'll be able to share more of it as it goes along. Maybe once it's been built, we'll do it then. So we're just collating a lot of information and videos and footage now. Yeah, I guess, yeah, having that's our ultimate dream, and to have a place that we can manage and have guests stay at and create experiences and have people connect to the land and connect to themselves and be in raw nature, is something that we're very excited about.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you can do something that you love that much and as part of your job. So I love that.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I'm very fortunate that I guess me and my team can work on it as something as well. We don't have to do a lot of it outsourced. We can actually create most of it in-house, and then call on the specialists and consultants that we need as we go along the process.
So is Bare Cabo, are you doing that as well as landscape design, or is that basically your main business now?
So that's my main business now, and I've actually dropped landscape design as a singular service.
Yep.
So what I was finding when I was doing landscape design, clients would ask about, their interiors or their scope creep would be happening. And I always thought the exterior and the interior should be as one. But what I found on a lot of jobs is they would have two distinct different styles. And it would be so interesting to see that. And then there were so many different parties involved. There's an architect, interior designer, landscape designer. So I was like, you know what, I'd love to just get my hands on the whole space and just create something that's very holistic and it's seamless. And so, so now I did start off with Bare Cabo as having 3 services. One was landscape design, one was interiors and exteriors. And then the third was the absolute, which is the residents, the interiors and the exteriors. What I found was I was getting more inquiries for the absolute and only a couple of inquiries for the originals, is what I call the landscape design service. And then the second highest was I call two can tango, and that's the interior and exterior. So I dropped the landscape design because I felt it wasn't challenging me enough as well. I'd always want to creep into the interior or the house. And so now I offer the service of interior and exterior as one, or the complete package. And mainly, looking at the board, most of them are the absolute, like the complete package, which is just what really lights me up. Yeah.
It's such a good idea, because I used to think the same. Like whenever I was talking to landscape architects, I'd want them to be thinking about the outside as well, but they never do.
Yeah.
It's just do the inside and then that's it. That's all they care about.
Yeah, and I found a lot of clients where like they had the house design, but they kind of didn't have all the bits with it. And so this is a very comprehensive, like we look at it all the finishes as well, and planting, lighting, and just the complete package. Basically.
And so did you do that to your house first? Because I know you've got crazy paving inside your house.
Yeah. So our house is like a test run for a lot of things. Yeah, so we originally had the block. It's only a small block. It's 224 square meters, and we built a 2x1 on there to begin with. So we've just done things as we can afford, and as the family has grown. 2x1, and then we added the pool as the second stage, and then the third stage was the second story and the rooftop. And we've designed it all ourselves, and it really has, I guess you want to put out there what you do as well. Like you kind of want to, if you're going to create something, it's showing clients what you can do for them also. Yeah. And so when we had done our own home, even when we did our pool, it's just a small plunge pool, but it just went viral for some reason, because it was so plain. There was no waterline tile. I just wanted the render finish up to the concrete. And something about it being so simplistic must have hit something in people. And so that really did snowball. I guess the business snowballed after that, after people saw that and they wanted that.
And where did the idea come to use crazy paving inside?
Oh, I'm obsessed with it. Yeah, so obviously I love the outdoors and I love bringing the outdoors in, and I love crazy paving. So I thought, why not bring it inside? And we did put floor heating under it, thank goodness, because that it just makes it a lot more comfortable inside, especially in the winter. It's like a rock that's been in the sun in the winter under your feet. So that's really nice. And I would recommend, if you're looking at doing a natural stone inside, to do that if you get cold winters, because it does make it a lot more comfortable. But yeah, we fall in love with it more and more each day. And we don't mind it. People are so scared of having a stone inside, and I guess, the marking and the staining. But I see it as, it's an outdoor stone, and outside it gets all the organic matter on it, and it gets dirty and ages, and so I don't mind that. It's not for everyone, but I love that about the stone, how it does age. Yeah
when it gets marks on there, it doesn't, unless it's like a red wine or something really obvious, it just kind of blends in anyway, and you don't notice it as much, I think.
The first few weeks you're like, don't even walk on the floor. And then like as time goes on, you're just like, oh, whatever. But I always recommend to seal it with an impregnating sealer, so that if you do spill something, you can quickly mop it up and it won't stain.
Yeah. So whereabouts are the projects coming from for Bare Cabo? Because I know you're doing one in Torquay. It's like 10 minutes from me. So in Victoria. So
oh, cool.
So how are they all coming to you from all around the country?
Do you know what? I've never advertised before, and it's purely and completely from Instagram.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's so I will get I usually get a DM of someone saying, oh, look, we've got this project, can we chat about it? Or they see my projects on Insta, and then they'll go to the website and they'll put an inquiry form in, and that's kind of how it happens. And what I love about Instagram is, when I usually, the first time I chat with a potential client, it feels like they're already comfortable with me, like they know what I do, they've seen what I do, they kind of know a bit about my family and who I am. So it makes for an easier relationship to start from as well, which I love.
Yeah, because I find that when you're putting yourself on Instagram, like when people are contacting you, you pretty much already won the project.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, I guess it's a kind of a double-edged sword, because what I find is so hard with Instagram, like I find it very natural for me to use it, and I've been using it for a long time, but it is a way for people to contact you very easily as well. And then I get really anxious when I post about something that isn't work related, if I haven't got back to someone, or if I haven't finished a design. I think about that stuff so much, and I feel bad for people who might be waiting to hear from me. I feel like I can't live a life as well. And it's that really hard balance of putting yourself out there, but also like understanding that you're still a human, you still have a life outside of work too. Yeah. So it's, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, that comes back to not worrying about how soon you get back to people.
Exactly, like knowing that there should be time to be a person and go and enjoy time off, and it's something in my own head. Like my clients or whoever's waiting probably don't think twice about it, but I feel bad and obligated by it. So there are times when I kind of just try and stay off it a bit more, but I am so grateful for it, because it really has made my business. And it's a great tool for anyone in this kind of industry, because it is such a visual tool to showcase what they do and make those connections with those ideal clients.
So what's coming up next in the remainder of this year for yourself? You're not starting up any other businesses, are you? Just going to concentrate on
maybe no. No. So we've just just engaged a town planner for our remote project, which is called the Sebatikel collection. That's a play on our son's name, and obviously sabbatical, like time away. And so we'll be focusing quite heavily on that and getting that off the ground. I am building my team, so I've got 2 full-timers. That one is starting next week, and one has started a few weeks ago. So building the team, putting in a lot of processes and procedures, and, I guess, taking a step back and seeing how we can do things with a lot more thought and process to it. because I'm such a creative, and I guess, yeah, like to just get on with things and do it. But now I'm looking at how it can be a more sustainable business. So that's really exciting for me, because usually I'd shy away from that sort of stuff, but I'm actually very excited to do that, because what I found is when I was really unwell, nothing would get done because I was everything in the business, apart from the contractors, etc. But I still hold up the process. So if I'm not doing my, upfront design work, I can't pass it down the line. So yeah, just building that out. And while I was unwell, I couldn't focus on my online courses, and I do a SkethUp masterclass, and I teach others in the industry how to upskill or just get better at certain skills. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into that later on this year. I find it really rewarding. I love being part of a community in that way. So I feel like I've learned quite a few things over the last few years, and I hope to be teaching people how to slow it down in business while being super productive. So that would be my next dream that I'd like to fulfill in I guess giving back and helping others.
Yeah, well, it's a smart idea what you're doing with the processes. There's a book called Built to Sell, which is about building a business so that it's able to be sold, but then not selling it and just running it. So then,
I think I need to read that. I need to add it to my book list, because that's so important for me. That's how I look at everything now. So, okay, so if we're going to sell this, what do we need to do and what needs to be in place? And we've got our outdoor showers, and we're looking at, putting everything in place for that, because that's a product. So that's a bit different. That can actually be sold. So what do we need to put in place to make that all up to scratch? But then also applying that to the design business, even though I'd never sell it because it's, that kind of thing. But then also applying that to the Sebatikel collection as well, because we're going to have managers and teams there as well. So I guess just looking at how, getting the frameworks in place, and then just, I guess, duplicating that and putting it into place in other things, and seeing where it takes us.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching it, because I love Western Australia and I love the heat. So I think it's a really scenic place. So I'm really looking forward to following along.
Oh, you will love this, and we need to talk. You'll have to come visit.
Yeah. Well, Mon, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed this chat, and thank you so much for having me.